In this lecture, I would like to clarify the use of white space. So when to use one white space, when to use more than one, and when not to use white space. And to explain that to you, I've got a script here with 3 parts. Each of the parts will do the same thing. So the first one prints out A, and 3 A's, and then B here, and then C. So the first one, here I typed in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces. So that will work. As you can see here, you get the output correctly, but it's not a good practice. Even though that will work, it's not a good practice because the code is not very readable. So that's a problem with this first block. And here in the second block, I fixed that, so the space here is just right. Basically, you want to separate things with spaces. When it comes to operators such as the comparison operators or plus or minus or multiplication, the code will work even if you don't have any spaces like that. However, to make the code more readable, it's better to have some spaces between operators as well. So the space between if and a number is a must. If you have that, the code will not work. You'll get an invalid syntax. However, no space between operators is fine. So that's the problem in this block here, that you have this expression without spaces. In some particular cases, like sometimes I don't use spaces in the videos because I want to show you the text in a greater font, so I have to sacrifice with less spaces so that I can fit more text in the screen. So unless you have a good reason to do so, please use spaces, 1 space. And then here, that is fine. So 1 space here, 1 here, and 1 there. And then after the colon, so this is what you should know. And I told you already about indentation. After a colon, you always have indentation. Indentation means at least 1 space. So this would also work like that, but a good practice is to have 4 spaces. 4. So that's correct. And when you have more code in your script, it's good to separate things with a break line, to separate logics. So if you have a conditional block there, you have to write them line by line, no break lines here like that. That would also work, but please don't use break lines to make your code more readable. However, once the conditional block ends, you have another logical block. There's no clear-cut rules here, but just use your logic. So I thought it's good to have these print functions without a break line between them. So here, if I would add another function, I would make a break line and then create a function here, and so on. And of course, use indentation for functions as well. So after the colon, always comes the indentation. And that's it, more or less, about spaces, white space in Python.